These cars belong to your brother now. My father's voice cut through the chatter of the packed bookstore like a knife, silencing the excited crowd gathered for my first book launch. Sign the papers, Alexandra. My hand trembled on the podium as I stared at the transfer documents he'd slammed in front of me. I am Alexandra Mitchell, 28 years old, and I had just published my first novel. The bookstore should have been a place of celebration, but instead I felt my family trying to strip away the last connection I had to my grandfather. I won't sign, I said, my voice shaking but resolute. Grandpa left those cars to me for a reason. Marcus, my 25-year-old brother, hovered behind Dad, wearing his usual smug grin. He'd never held a steady job, hopping from failed schemes to fleeting ventures, yet he was always the golden child. Your brother has a real opportunity, Mom added, her manicured nails tapping against the table. These cars could set him up for life. You're just being selfish. They didn't understand. These weren't just cars, they were my grandfather's life's work. Every weekend spent restoring and learning the history of each classic vehicle had been our bond. And now they wanted to hand it all over to Marcus. This isn't about business, I said, turning to the awkward crowd. I apologize. We'll resume the signing shortly. But Dad wasn't finished. He grabbed my arm, digging in painfully. Ungrateful little. Before I could react, he snatched my first edition books from the podium and hurled them into the decorative fireplace. No. I lunged, but it was too late. The pages curled and blackened, flames devouring my dream in seconds. Maybe now you'll understand what's important, Dad said, cold and commanding. Family comes first. Alexandra, sign the papers. I stared at the burning books, something hardening inside me. For years they'd dismissed my achievements, favored Marcus, and tried to control my life. But this time they'd gone too far. Security. I called, my voice firmer than I felt. Please escort them out. The guard stepped forward. Dad's face flushed with rage. You're choosing this over your family, over your brother's future. Numb, Dad, I said, straightening. I'm choosing myself. And those cars aren't just vehicles. They're Grandpa's legacy, his passion. Something you'll never understand. As security led them away, Marcus shot me a venomous look. You'll regret this. Those cars should be mine. But what they didn't know was that I was prepared. Grandpa had warned me, keep everything documented. People show their true colors when there's money involved. I'd installed security cameras in the private garage where the collection was stored. Every visit, every threat, every attempt to access the cars had been recorded. And I'd done one more thing that would make tomorrow interesting. That evening I received a text from an unknown number. Ms. Mitchell, this is James Sullivan from Heritage Insurance. We need to discuss the incident at your book launch. Your grandfather's policy is specific about threats to his beneficiary. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. I smiled, remembering Grandpa's foresight. Any attempt to coerce or threaten me would trigger immediate investigation. The next morning I arrived at the private garage, finding Mr. Sullivan waiting. A tall, distinguished man in his 50s, briefcase in hand and an air of authority. Good morning, Ms. Mitchell, he said, shaking my hand. Your grandfather's foresight was remarkable. Before we could continue, my family's cars rolled into the lot. Dad stepped out, chest puffed with false confidence. This is private family business, he declared. You'll have to leave. Mr. Sullivan smiled sharply. Actually, Mr. Mitchell, I'm exactly where I need to be. Your father's insurance policy has specific clauses about protecting his collection and its rightful heir. Perhaps we should step inside. Inside the garage office, surrounded by photographs of Grandpa and his beloved cars, Mr. Sullivan laid out the documents. Section 7, Paragraph 3. Any attempt to coerce or threaten the beneficiary would trigger immediate investigation and potential legal action. Dad's face reddened. That's ridiculous. We're her family. Yes, Mr. Sullivan said evenly. Which is why your father added this clause. He anticipated exactly this situation. Mom's composure cracked. Edward never understood that Marcus has a natural talent for business. I laughed. Natural talent? Marcus can't even change a tire. Marcus flushed, protest dying on his lips. Shall we inspect the collection? Mr. Sullivan suggested. Under the gleaming lights of the climate-controlled garage, I walked him past each of the 12 pristine vintage cars. When he paused at a 1957 Ferrari 250 GT, I explained, "Grandpa found this in a barn in Italy. 3 years of restoration. Every part sourced across Europe. Original paint, original leather interior." He nodded approvingly. "And this one?" A 1963 Aston Martin DB5. Grandpa's pride and joy. "I ran my hand over its oath. We spent every Sunday working on it when he was in high school." As he spoke, he felt a surge of confidence. "Grandpa taught me more than cars. He taught me to stand my ground. And now, finally, he was ready. He taught me to rebuild an engine block, piece by piece, layer by layer." "This is all very touching," my father interrupted, his tone dripping with condescension, "but these cars are wasted used sitting here. Marcus has investors lined up." "Who?" he asked sharply, turning to face him. "Who wants to flip them for quick cash?" "These aren't used commodities, Dad," he continued, my voice rising. "They're pieces of history, each with its own story. Grandpa didn't spend his life restoring these cars so Marcus could sell them to the highest bidder." Mr. Sullivan cleared his throat. "There is one more thing," he said, producing another document. "The insurance policy includes a maintenance clause. There must demonstrate knowledge of proper care for the collection. Shall we test that?" Marcus went pale. Mom stepped forward, trying to intervene. "This is unnecessary. We reuse trying todo what's best for the family." "No," he said firmly. "You're trying todo what's best for Marcus, like always. Not this time." Mr. Sullivan walked to the Ferrari. "Mr. Mitchell Jr., perhaps you could demonstrate the proper startup procedure for a vehicle of this vintage." Marcus stared blankly at the car. You turned the key," he stammered. "I watched my parents' faces fall as Mr. Sullivan made notice. This was just the beginning, and for the first time, he wasn't backing down. Grandpa had made sure of that. The aftermath was swift. The insurance report confirmed what Grandpa had known all along. He was the only one qualified to maintain his legacy. But the real bombshell came when Mr. Sullivan revealed the final clause. "Your grandfather added a trust provision," he said, sliding a document across the desk. "The collection cannot be sold as a whole or broken up without meeting strict conditions. Any attempt to force a sale triggers automatic donation to the National Automotive Museum." My father slumped into his chair, the fight finally drained from him. Marcus stormed out, slamming the garage door so hard the windows rattled. Mom simply sat in stunned silence, her perfectly maintained facade crumbling. "There is more," Mr. Sullivan continued. "The destruction of Ms. Mitchell's property at the book launch has triggered a liability clause. Heritage Insurance will cover the cost of reprinting her first editions, plus damages." Tears pricked my eyes. Even from beyond, Grandpa was protecting me, ensuring he could stand on my own. 2 weeks later, he supervised the installation of new security systems at the garage. The bookstore had agreed to host another launch, this time with proper precautions. My reprinted first editions had arrived, and pre-orders had actually increased after the incident became local news. My phone buzzed. "Marcus. I'm sorry. Can we talk?" He hesitated but agreed to meet him at a coffee shop. He looked different, humble, almost human, for the first time in his life. He didn't get it before," he said quietly, stirring his coffee. "About you and Grandpa, all the time you spent together. He used $1 signs when he looked at those cars. That's exactly why I left them to me," he said. "It was never about money. It was about passion, dedication, learning to care for something bigger than yourself." Marcus nodded slowly. "Maybe you could teach me." "Not for the money," he added quickly. He missed out on knowing this side of Grandpa. Maybe it's not too late to understand. It wasn't an instant fix, but it was a start. Over the next few months, he taught Marcus the basics of car maintenance. Clumsy at first, he proved surprisingly eager. Our parents took longer to come around. Mom appeared at my second book launch, quietly in the back. This time, instead of criticism, she bought a copy and asked me to sign it. "Your grandfather would be proud," she whispered before slipping away. That was the last to join, washing silently one Sunday as he taught Marcus how to change the oil in the Aston Martin. You know, said, Grandpa tried to teach me once. I was too proud to listen, too focused on what I thought mattered. I missed out. I handed him a wrench. It's never too late to learn. The following spring, I hosted a classic car show at the garage, showcasing Grandpa's coleccionando una thing proceeds to a local technical Charles automotive program. Among the visitors, a young girl stared in awe at the Ferrari. Want to learn how it works? I asked. Her eyes lit up, reminding me of my own childhood wonder. Her parents watched nervously, but soon they, too, were captivated as Marcus and his shared Grandpa's stories, showing basic engine components and maintenance tips. Marcus had come a long way from the brother who only saw dollar signs. As the sun set over the garage, he sat in the Aston Martin, hands on the steering wheel Grandpa had restored with such care. He could almost hear his voice. Ally, the most valuable things aren't the things. They are the lessons we learn, the passions we share, the legacy we leave. I have been right. The cars were never used cars. They were vessels of love, knowledge, and courage. My family needed this backup call, this chance to see what Grandpa had known all along. Locking up the garage, he whispered, "Thanks, Grandpa. For everything." My phone buzzed. A message from my publisher. My second book, a memoir about classic cars and family legacy, had just been picked up. Life had come full circle, and this time, my whole family would be there to celebrate. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's standing your ground until others finally see what's been there all along.